Eric and I were chatting a little bit earlier today about the presentation. We're really going to start with saying, okay, what are 5 tips that we can set up nonprofits with here as we've completed Giving Tuesday and we're heading into the home stretch with year-end fundraising. And we realize that there's so much more to talk about than just 5 tips for how we can take these donors that you've captured and convert them into recurring supporters. So there is so much fantastic content that we're going to get to cover here today. And joining me is Eric from Community Boost. Community Boost is one of our really fantastic partners here at Fundraise Up. We're really excited to get to work with them on a lot of fantastic projects for nonprofits anywhere, everywhere. And so Eric, on that note, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. Again, I think this is a really impactful topic, and with all the effort we put in collectively to have a successful Giving Tuesday and successful year end, I think having a recurring giving program is one of the best ways to use all of that momentum and take advantage of it moving into 2021. But before we start, I think it's really important to get a gauge of who our audience is and the type of experiences with recurring giving we're working with. So I'd love if we could go ahead and answer this poll, and we can kind of see how we can tailor the presentation specifically to where you guys are at in your recurring giving journey.
Fantastic. We're seeing those responses come in the gate here. We are seeing right now about 73% of people saying, yes, we do have a recurring giving program. There's a few people, about 25%, saying, no, we don't have a recurring program just yet, but we'd like to. Luckily, we haven't anyone say no, that we don't have a recurring giving program yet. And that's always great to see, because these, as you're going to learn, this is a really key part of your fundraising strategy. But if you are in the audience and don't yet have a recurring giving program, that's okay. You're going to learn more about what this can look like for you. And of course, through Fundraise Up, we have a really incredible recurring giving component to the platform that we can make available to you. So Eric, it looks like about 80% of people are saying yes, we have a recurring giving program, 20% saying no, not yet, but we'd like to. And still nobody saying no, we don't have this program in place yet. So that's what we're seeing.
Perfect. That's super helpful. I think, Nick, do you want to introduce yourself real briefly?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who I haven't yet had the pleasure of connecting with, my name is Nick Miller. I am the Director of Marketing here at Fundraise Up. And I know that we have some people joining us today for the first time. You haven't yet had a chance to attend one of our Learning Lab webinars, and maybe you're not even familiar with what we do here at Fundraise Up. So let me just share with you real quick. We have created a truly incredible fundraising platform. And I can say that because I used to be a Fundraise Up customer, but we have crafted a better online donation experience for both you and, most importantly, your donors. We're able to achieve that by leveraging artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data science. So that's what we do here at Fundraise Up. If this is raising an eyebrow, it's caught your attention, please feel free to connect with me. I'll set you up with one of our fantastic nonprofit success engineers to see what Fundraise Up can look like for your organization. I'll be following up with you tomorrow in an email, but if you have questions that you want to send my way today, my email address is nick@fundraiseup.com. That's just NIC@fundraiseup.com. Also invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Nick. My name's Eric. I do demand generation here at Community Boost, and I also work on some client strategy and some digital ad management. Community Boost is a digital marketing agency that works specifically with nonprofits. We've worked with 500 plus nonprofits in around the 8 years that we've been in existence. And we work with nonprofits of all sizes, from $800,000 annual budgets to $800 million annual budgets. And we focus on a lot of donor acquisition, so cross-channel digital marketing from email to Facebook and Instagram ads to Google Ad Grant management. And I'm really excited to get into it with you guys. Again, if you want to connect with me as well, my email is eric@communityboost.org. You can find me on LinkedIn, or you can just Google Community Boost and fill out the Let's Talk form. But let's get into it. Given our poll results, I'm sure most of you guys understand the power and predictability of recurring giving. I don't think I need to harp on it too much, but these were statistics that when I was researching, I couldn't help but include. Nonprofits with a recurring giving program see a 487% increase in total donor lifetime value compared to nonprofits without one. I just want to stop for a second and emphasize that that's a 487% increase in total donor lifetime value. And we haven't seen any other tactic or tip we can use to increase our, top line revenue in a similar fashion. So that stat should be enough. And if it isn't, we see a 50% increase in average donor retention rate, and 52% of millennials are more likely to give monthly over a large one-time donation. Again, this is stuff I'm sure you guys understand if you're attending this webinar and giving your poll answers, but I just like to harp on it because I find these stats especially enlightening. But of course, these high-level stats don't mean much without going into the weeds on specific examples. This case study is from Step Up, which is a recurring giving campaign for one of Community Boost clients, Souls for Souls, which is also a Fundraise out client. But Step Up was, we basically talked to the Souls for Souls team. We had managed a good amount of one-time donation appeals and campaigns. We've had successful return on ad spend numbers and successfully fundraised for them. But we knew we had to get into recurring giving, and it's a great way to increase predictability of revenue month over month, not knowing what the future will hold. And so we thought Step Up was a way to do it. And so it was a team effort with their team supporting a lot of the email and organic social. And we worked with a lot of the Facebook and Instagram ads. We did display ads, YouTube ads, as well as a Google ad grant. And the numbers kind of speak for themselves. We spent $7,800 and activated 128 recurring giving users. All of those 128, Brian, were recurring giving users. And then 17 canceled, giving us around an 87% retention rate. And to date, these numbers are about 2 months old even, but we had a $20,877 donated to date. But what the really interesting number is that 2,500 plus in current monthly recurring revenue, and with an 87% retention rate, that pays off your ad spend within 2 months. And from there, you just have recurring revenue that you own as a revenue stream, and that Souls for Souls has been able to scale into a really predictable revenue stream for them. And so I think this is a really cool success story of how you can use digital ads specifically to bring in brand new donors and turn them into recurring donors. And I'm sure Fundraise Up's software was a huge part in making that a success as well. But again, we all understand the why. So I really want to focus on the how. And we'll be breaking this up into 2 parts. Part 1 being aligning on our message and our creative. So what's the story we're trying to tell? And then part 2, how do we get that message out to as many people as possible? We work with a lot of nonprofits who spend around 80% of their time on part 1, and then not enough time getting it out to new people. And we also work with people who spend too little time on part 1, and they're getting out a message that isn't complete to people and not seeing the traction that they'd like. So I think it's good to break it out into these 2 parts. We're going to leave a lot of time at the end for Q&A because I want to be able to answer specific questions that you guys have. And we're also offering free one-on-one strategy sessions to anyone that has more detailed questions that we don't hit in some of these high-level tips. But without further ado, I'll get into it. So part 1 is aligning your campaign creative. So your campaign message is the center of truth from which everything else stems for your recurring giving campaign. So we need to give time to make sure it's genuine and make sure it's real. Some strategies we can use here is to make sure that your campaign message is simple. You want to make sure that if someone sees it in an email or in a quick Facebook and Instagram ad, even in a 5-second pre-roll YouTube ad, they understand what the message of the campaign is. And it's as simple as possible in that manner. A good test that we had one of our partners do is trying to have one of their kids see the campaign landing page and tell them what the campaign landing page is trying to get across. And essentially, if a kid can understand it, then there's no doubt that your donors can as well, and they'll understand it immediately and effectively. Another key is to utilize story and emotional appeal. Again, this is as easy for nonprofits easier for nonprofits than anyone else, given that the work we do has innate emotional appeal and has stories built into it. So just making sure that we utilize those stories and showcase them as effectively as possible, and using the correct media to do so, and making sure that your message is relevant. So this is interesting how we can use digital ad platforms specifically to get really relevant and contextual depending on who we're speaking to. So we can have one core campaign message, but if we're using a Facebook ad, for example, we can show different messages to different donor cohorts depending on where they are in our donor journey, or different like affinities they have, which we can target differently in different digital advertising platforms. And then we just want to make sure that it's impact-centric. You know, a lot of nonprofits are competing for donors' money, especially during these times. And a great way to stand out is showing them when you donate to us, this is exactly what your dollars do. And then we want to make sure it's unique for the same exact reason to stand apart from the competition. So once we have our message and we've aligned on that, we need to build the building blocks, the foundation for our program. The first of those being a themed landing page. A themed landing page is absolutely essential for any recurring giving program. You don't ever want to send someone who you're trying to get to become a recurring donor to a general website homepage. They want to be sent in a specific user journey speaking to exactly what the next steps in the funnel are. So a landing page from an ad that has a video about a recurring giving program, they go to a landing page that gets them to sign up for like first month or first 5 months. And then from there, it's all contextual. We definitely want a flagship video. So our clients who have had the most successful recurring giving programs have used video creative. The reason being that when you're using these channels to promote your program, like paid social, you can't get someone to read a long form, social post, and barely can you get someone to read a long form text email, but you can get people to watch really compelling long form videos or even short form videos that can still get your message across. Again, I'm sure all you guys having been in nonprofit marketing understand this. I just want to reiterate that we've seen great results using video as opposed to normal static imagery. And we want to have crystal clear impact metrics. This takes a lot of work up front, but as competition for normal donors and recurring donors increases, people really need to see what their donation is doing and who they're serving concretely. So, we have nonprofits that say, donate $144 and send a child in Pakistan to school for a year, or donate $2 and put shoes on a kid in a community across the world for a year. So really specifically, this is when you donate this much money, this is what we do with that money, which really helps build trust and credibility with them. Another tactic that we love to use is utilizing a private tribe is what we call it. So oftentimes we can use any type of tech we want. It can be like a group me message or a text group if you're operating really lean, but we like to do a private Facebook group that really makes your donors feel like they belong in this community of like-minded peers. So they've taken another step in support of your mission, and then they can join a tribe, a community of people who have also taken that step, and they can share wins, they can help promote, they can do advocacy, but just letting them know that there are people similar to them who are fired up about the same mission is something that can really help increase donor retention rates as well. And then finally, thinking about different ways to incentivize engagement. So it's really interesting to say if one person joins, they have multiple tiers that they can choose from in terms of how they want to support. And so that can look like a monthly recurring gift of like $5 per month. You get like a yearly direct mail gift from the organization, but you donate $15 per month and you get a gift quarterly. And say you donate $50 per month, we'll host a beneficiary gala where something that we've seen that was really interesting was using Zoom, because everyone's using Zoom now and they're comfortable with it when they weren't before, using Zoom to connect the beneficiaries to the donors themselves. So this was a nonprofit that sent children to school in Pakistan, but they used Zoom to connect their most effective donors with the kids themselves, and the kids could say thank you from around the world, which I just thought was just like a pretty beautiful way to use these platforms, and a great way to incentivize engagement with your donors and community. So going a little bit into our recurring giving landing page, this is, again, one of the most important building blocks of our recurring giving campaign. And these are just some of the things that we see work best. Again, and this is with almost everything that we do, we encourage testing as much as possible. We don't want to make decisions from, a focus group of one thinking, this is what I would like to see on a landing page. You want to get it out to your potential donors and see what they want, what they decide, and then make decisions and iterate from that feedback. But that being said, some great pieces of your campaign landing page are a strong branded campaign name. So Pencils of Promise, who have a great recurring giving campaign, call their campaign Passport. Charity Water calls theirs the Spring. Soulful Souls obviously calls theirs Step Up. And so having a really strong branded name helps donors feel like they're actually taking a new step to become a recurring donor, as opposed to just, oh, let's turn our donation into a recurring one, which again can increase retention rates, increase donor lifetime value, all those things. This is something that we probably wouldn't recommend testing too often. We really want to spend a lot of time thinking of a name that we really resonate with. Maybe we can talk to our favorite donors, but then once we've decided on a name, we want to keep that coherent and across all of our different channels that we use to promote. Another tool that we love to use is testimonials, just utilizing social proof to help people overcome sometimes the last hurdle when they're deciding to donate. So we can ask our best donors for quotes about why they donate to this cause. We can even get testimonials from some of the beneficiaries of our nonprofit. And this is when a private community comes in handy, because you can ask the community for, even video testimonials work especially well. But just illustrating to someone who's making a donation, not completely sure if it's as effective as possible, that this is the correct place to donate, and that there are other people who are doing the same thing who are similar to them. So it's textbook, utilizing social proof. And then again, we've talked about this, but utilizing impact blocks. So provide one pair every day if you donate $30 a month, provide 2 pairs every day to a child if you donate $60 a month, and 5 pairs every day if you donate $150 a month. I know Fundraise Up's platform is beautiful the way it does this, where and Nick, let me know if I'm not doing it justice, but they utilize AI and machine learning to change these numbers or the recommended numbers depending on where your donor is coming from, which we saw work especially well with some of our clients who've done like side-by-side comparisons of our old donation platform with Fundraise Up, and Fundraise Up fees included, just seeing it be much more effective. Again, Nick, let me know if I'm butchering any of that.
No, you hit the nail right on the head, Eric. Thank you.
So yeah, we love metaphors at Community Boost as well. I hope you guys do too. But we want to make sure that a best-in-class recurring giving program serves a purpose, and our campaign creative and messaging serves a purpose. So first of all, it needs to be simple. You need to strip your messaging down to its most critical core without turning it into a soundbite, but keeping it simple, making it stand out when people with incredibly short attention spans are scrolling Instagram or Facebook and come across your campaign for the first time. We want to make it emotional. Again, this is incredibly easy for us given the space that we work in, but tell your beneficiaries stories and appeal to potential donors' emotions. And we want to make it relevant. We want to make sure that our targeted donor audience is ideologically aligned with the messages that we're telling. And again, we'll get into this a little later in the presentation, but we can use different digital fundraising tools, and especially digital advertising tools, to make sure that we're niching down our messaging to make it as relevant to each donor cohort as possible and as personalized as well. We want to utilize video. So again, invest in the Flagship video. It can pay unexpected dividends, especially if we're making a really big step to have a really high production value video. Those are the type of things that you can see go viral on different social platforms. And that virality is something that you can't expect, but those dividends can change the future of an organization's fundraising. And then make it effective. Again, focus on impact, add data, or appeal to authority. And then finally, stories. So the story of our recurring giving tribe's impact is everything. And so we want to share it. And we want to utilize our recurring giving tribe to help us share that, to gain virality and social proof, and all those things. But yeah, make sure our recurring giving program serves a purpose. If you guys have any questions, again, feel free to throw them in the chat. And if you have any more specific questions, we'd love to schedule one-on-one time with any of you after the webinar to really dive specifically into those. But that covers our part one, which is aligning on our recurring giving creative. So this is what our recurring giving program is. And then part two is marketing and scaling that program. How do we get it out to the right people at scale and to grow? So let's dive into part two. We'll just go through our top 7 marketing channels for your recurring giving program. So these are the channels that we've seen the most success with our clients growing their own recurring giving programs. Again, this is going to be a little bit high level. I could talk for hours and hours about each single one of these programs. Like we could have an hour-long webinar about email marketing, about Facebook and Instagram ads. We do, in fact. So I'll keep it relatively high level. And if you have specific questions, we'd love for you to throw those in the Q&A at the end, or to schedule time. But here are our channels: email marketing, organic social, paid social, so Facebook and Instagram ads, Google ad grants, paid Google ads, YouTube and display, direct outreach, and peer-to-peer empowerment. So we'll start with email marketing, something I'm sure all of you guys are doing, but it's essential for specifically for our recurring giving program to create automated segmented email drips for our existing email lists. And it's just critical to our conversion rate. We all see inboxes that are packed with people trying to get us to buy something online or to donate to their cause, or basically anything to that respect. So we need to make sure our donation or our emails are as contextual to the specific segment that they're targeting as possible. And then we can customize our drips based on the warmth of those audiences. So first-time donors can get a different drip than a long-term donors, than a lapsed donor, and someone who subscribes but doesn't donate will get a completely different drip than all of those people. And so, spending the time to build out like a mind map of these are the different drips for each of these people, and then building that into whatever our email marketing provider is or our program is, can really pay unexpected dividends. And it's also a lot of upfront work. But once you get down the line, then it's a lot of just A/B testing different emails and the flows to see which ones are the most effective. And the upfront work can definitely pay off. And then we also want to test diverse content strategies. So we, again, don't want to make a decision from a focus group of one, which is us saying this is the email we think will work. We've seen really long form text emails later on in an email flow convert extremely well, even though it's email best practice to have, short readable emails. Text only email, we've tested text only email with tools like Mixmax that deliver to a personal inbox if it's from a person. Like we did an appeal for the Tenement Museum when they had a Keep the Lights On campaign, where we sent an email directly from their CEO to their donors through Mixmax, as opposed to their like automated email marketing. And I think it raised like $50,000 in a day to keep their lights on. So it's small tips like that can have like exponential dividends and returns. Again, think about messaging from the beneficiary, and then think about utilizing video creative. This is for almost all of our channels, but just continuously testing and hacking away to see, oh, maybe it's the story of the dog in a cage that resonates with our donor, or maybe it's the story of a dog with a loving family. There's no way of knowing until we test. And then once you do, that's incredibly valuable data we can use going forward and growing to be as effective as possible with all of our messaging. And the next channel we like to utilize is organic social. We want to showcase beneficiary stories. So if we can have someone on the ground where we're working, just showcasing what the work is doing, that's the type of heartfelt messaging that can be really helpful in getting our message out to our donors and generating engagement on social. Utilizing a memorable hashtag is utilizing a memorable hashtag is a great tactic as well, just to get some free organic reach. And then getting the audience involved and sharing their stories, tagging you is the ultimate goal. So we've seen great success doing user-generated content where you ask your best donors. You can even ask your donors from, say, like your private Facebook group. You can ask them for user-generated content and then reuse that on organic social, and you can even reuse that in ads. And that can all work really well in terms of generating engagement and really making the donors feel like this is a genuine cause, and that's transparent in the way it interacts with its donors.
Eric, I'm going to jump in real quick and share that we had a question just come in from one of our attendees about some of the different tools that are available for automating donor segmentation and kind of getting the Community Boost take on what some of those platforms are. I think you've touched on that a little bit so far, but I want us to take this question and keep it in our minds. We're going to enter a Q&A period at the end of today's presentation. And I want us to be able to circle back to this one because I think it warrants a little bit more than just, a passing observation from Eric and I. So Jane, thank you for including that question for us. And Eric, let's take some time at the end to kind of talk about what some of the different options are out there for people who are wanting to take some of the heavy lifting out of audience segmentation.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I'm happy to set aside some time to answer that. Thanks, Nick. Getting back into it, the next channel is Facebook and Instagram ads. So here is probably our most effective channel, dollar per dollar, in acquiring new donors, in donor acquisition, and also in mobilizing current donors and supporters that maybe have lapsed or we can't reach through email with an open rate of 20%, or direct mail. People aren't opening their mail at home. So Facebook and Instagram ads is just incredibly impactful. And again, I could spend longer than an hour talking about specific tactics and strategies. And I definitely encourage you guys to ask as many questions as you can about this channel. But here's just a brief overview of how we like to use it to market our clients' recurring giving programs. So the hyper targeting is what makes Facebook and Instagram ads special as a channel. And that means we can target new donors, people who have donated, people who have initiated a checkout to donate but didn't donate, people who have engaged with social but never donate and never will. All those people, we can market to them specifically and speaking to where exactly they are in the donor journey. We can also market to the person who really wants to see impact metrics and is driven by investing in a social impact ROI versus someone who truly cares about the story. We can market to those people with different contextual creative to both of them, which again, we couldn't do in any other channel kind of in the history of marketing. Like you couldn't do that with newspaper ads or TV ads or any of that. So we like to break it down into 3 tiers, usually with our builds, which is the first for a recurring giving campaign being pre-wiring our donors with awareness ads. And so people who might resonate with our campaign, people who have maybe donated once and lapsed, or people who have never heard of our organization before. We can hit them with ads and then we can see who engages with those ads. So if someone, for example, watches a video for 45 seconds, we know that that person cares enough about our cause to watch a video for 45 seconds, but they might have left for whatever reason, like there's a kid at home, or they just had work to get back to, or any of those things, but they've shown intent. Same if someone likes one of our ads or someone clicks through an ad to a landing page but then leaves. That's when we move those people into tier 2, which is convert, which is where we take people who have already shown engagement and then we show them messaging with the goal of getting them to convert for the first time. So whether that is joining an email list if it's really early, or converting and becoming a recurring donor for the first time. That's the second tier, which is where we see our most effective ROI numbers. And then third is gratitude. So once someone has taken time and money to donate to our cause, how do we show gratitude? How do we take time and money out of our own day to show gratitude to them? So oftentimes we'll show Facebook and Instagram ads people who have already donated, and with the sole purpose of saying thank you. And when they see that, they are so taken aback that a nonprofit will take the time and money to show an ad to them, only saying thank you when they're being bombarded by ads asking them to buy something online, that oftentimes will donate even more. But more than that, it's just the correct thing to do as a nonprofit with donors who are taking time out of their day to support, these communities in need. Again, we can specify messaging and calls to actions in these Facebook and Instagram ads, specifically depending on the tiers that we're in or the type of people we're speaking to. We see video creative outperform static imagery almost every time we have that A/B test. Again, obviously test, because none of this is applicable to everyone at the same time, but definitely test using video creative and using that flagship video, especially using these social platforms. We have the potential for virality, where people, if they don't want to donate, maybe they'll share your ad with their entire networks, and one of those people in their networks will donate. And again, something we couldn't see happen in any marketing channels that we've used in the past. So the next channel here is the Google Ad Grant. I want to take a quick moment. Does anyone in the chat not have the Google Ad Grant or not know what the Google Ad Grant is?
Yes, please feel free to jump into the chat. Let us know, are you using Google Ad Grant today? Have you not heard of Google Ad Grant? Eric's going to describe this a little bit more fully here in a moment, but this is something that if you've attended our previous Learning Lab webinars, it actually comes up quite often because this is a really key component to your fundraising strategy. So Eric, I'm seeing here we have some people saying they've heard some bad things about it maybe, and so they're not using it, and that it can be tricky to use unless you're a true marketing person. And we have somebody else sharing that it seems like it's kind of a hassle to get set up with. It can be lengthy to apply for, it can be tricky to set up, and that maybe there aren't enough resources in their fundraising team to really best leverage Google Ad Grant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is super, super interesting to see. For those of you who don't know what the Google Ad Grant is, or maybe have heard of it, it's a $10,000 a month grant that Google gives to qualified nonprofits to use in free Google search ads. So that's $120,000 a month that nonprofits can use to generate awareness and donations online. It's one of the most impactful tools that nonprofits can use. I don't know where else we can spend. It can sometimes be a lengthy application process, but what you get at the end is $120,000 a year of free advertising spend. That oftentimes pays for itself in donations driven and even just awareness. So I would definitely, and we have a load of services and resources at Community Boost for nonprofits that are looking to apply for the grant, to apply for it as easy as possible. And then we also do Google Ad Grant management. Like, we're a Google certified professional partner. And we have a direct communication with the Google Ad Grant team, and we work with them really closely. And we manage Google Ad Grants for 150 plus nonprofits. But that being said, again, it's one of the most effective tools nonprofits can use to fundraise digitally, especially on a shoestring budget. And the things we can use it for our current giving program is to increase brand awareness. We can build remarketing audiences really well. So we can target keywords that people are searching. They click through our Google ad on the keyword, come to our website, and then we can move them into a Facebook retargeting audience to get really compelling creative in front of them after they've shown intent from a keyword. Use RLSA, which is remarketing list search ads. There's a capability there which can be uploading remarketing lists that we can then use search ads to show up for them when they're bidding, when they're typing in certain keywords to Google. Again, here we want to reverse engineer what our audience is searching for and cares about. So even if it's something completely tangential to what our nonprofit is trying to show up for, because Google Ad Grant is free money to use on advertising, and as long as we maintain a certain click-through rate, then it's really possible to show up for different keywords that we think our target audience would think about and just get through that awareness stage of the customer journey with them. And then what we can finally do is send thousands of potential supporters to our site every month for free, and then bring them into our marketing ecosystem and matrix. So the next channel we like to use is paid Google search, YouTube, and display. So while the Google Ad Grant is great, there's certain stipulations with cost per clicks and how much you can bid on certain keywords. And so sometimes it makes sense to use paid search and then YouTube and display as well, which the Google Ad Grant doesn't cover. But paid search is great to capture branded traffic with the intention to opt in to our current specifically, and then using RLS again is something super effective. Real quickly, Liz asked if she can review this afterwards. We will be sending the recordings and the deck as well. So you guys will definitely be able to review all this. And if I'm talking way too fast or skipping over things, again, lots of Q&A time, and definitely schedule one-on-one sessions. But YouTube ads, we don't have to pay for a YouTube ad unless someone watches past a certain point if we're using a specific bidding strategy. And so it's the cheapest channel we have to get in front of new potential people. People don't convert from YouTube ads because they're logging onto YouTube to watch a video they want to watch. And so they're usually not likely to click through one of your ads to your website and join a recurring giving program, but they are likely to see a YouTube ad and then just get ingrained in their mind. Organization does. And if you can tell that story in 5 seconds, you don't have to pay to show it to them, which is super interesting and beneficial. And then finally, using display ads, again, our CPMs, our cost per 1,000 people we reach with display ads, are much lower than any other channel. And it's really effective to use in parallel to search and social advertising. And we can also, so that means if someone sees a Facebook ad, we also want them to see a display ad on Google's display network when they're, somewhere across the internet. And then you can also build custom affinity audiences, which is really interesting. So you can say, people who have visited this specific URL, I want to retarget with ads about my organization. So say you have a similar nonprofit that people are donating to. It's really similar to your own. You can actually target display ads to people who have visited the URL of that nonprofit. And I don't know how much more qualified users you can have than someone who's visiting the URL of a nonprofit that does what your nonprofit does. And then second to last one is direct outreach. Again, we just can't not mention direct outreach as a way to grow your recurring giving program. Just picking up the phone and calling your donors to ask if they consider becoming recurring donors. It's old-fashioned, but it's incredibly effective. It allows you to keep things personal. You can be informal to show genuine intent and just to build a real relationship with your donors. Direct mail as well is still incredibly effective. There are some stipulations with COVID maybe affecting direct mail open rates, but people are also at home and at their addresses more than ever before. And then we can also use direct mail in congruence with these other channels in ways to incentivize engagement. Even if we want to do some sort of earned virality campaign, we can send direct mail with like a trinket or something and ask them to post a picture of them with that trinket on Instagram to create some user-generated content. And again, just increasing program retention. There's nothing like getting a real handwritten note or a genuine gift from a nonprofit that you're supporting, and it makes donors feel like they're appreciated and that the nonprofit cares about them, which again increases donor retention rates and lifetime value. And then finally, peer-to-peer empowerment. It can be really interesting to incentivize a referral program where you say, if you refer this many people, we'll give you, a tiered incentive set, similar as before, but you maybe get a trinket if you refer 5 people. If you refer 10, you get something else, et cetera, et cetera. A core supporter group on Facebook is also great for peer-to-peer empowerment. It's huge to use to prepare easy to use templates to remove barriers to participation. So when you're asking someone to create user-generated content, it's much easier if you give them, a pre-written script that they can just copy and paste into a Facebook post than asking them to write up a whole heartfelt, message. And then mobilize core supporters to text, email, and call and support evangelization. So it is almost easier now that everything's virtual, where you don't have to ask a donor to come in to do a phone bank or to help email. You can just have a virtual happy hour where people are just calling on behalf of your organization or helping send emails from their personal emails to their networks or through social. So that was a lot. I apologize if you're bored of me talking. But we're about to hop into Q&A, so I hope we'll be able to answer some of your specific questions. Again, just quick recap, make sure our current giving program serves a purpose. And remember our 7 channels. I'm not going to read them all out, but we'll send this to you afterwards and you can review. And again, we have a bunch of resources here at Community Boost at our website. If you just go to communityboost.org/resources, you can do a lot of learning on your own. We have a whole webinar series. And then we love to set apart time to do one-on-one strategy sessions to answer your specific questions about your specific goals. So if you're thinking about starting a recurring giving campaign, maybe that's, what should I name my campaign? Are these Facebook ads built correctly? Do you have any feedback on my landing page? Any of those specific questions, we'd love to set apart one-on-one time. So I think we have a poll, if we'll launch that, and you can say if you're interested. Without further ado, we'll get into Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric. We have looked at so much content here today. And I know that for a lot of, especially smaller shops, you look at this list of action items and you say, I don't know that we have the capacity or the bandwidth to tackle all of this on our own. Sometimes, these are 1 and 2 person development teams. And so there's a key takeaway here that I'm hoping that everybody goes home with. And it's that we have partners like Community Boost for this very reason, because you have a mission that you need to focus on as a nonprofit, but you might not always have the people power or the financial resources to be where you want to be today. And so the opportunity is then created for you to work with Eric and the Community Boost team to really dive into how some of this can work really well. And this is a great entry point into some of the questions that we've received during today's presentation. And we'll go ahead and leave this poll open through the rest of the Q&A, so that if you would like to connect with Eric and the Community Boost team for a one-to-one meeting, you can do that. But what I'm gonna do is start at the top of the list, because we've gotten a lot of great feedback during today's presentation. And I want to start with Jane's original question. Jane asked us to really give some perspective on some of the automation tools that are available out there to help us best segment our donors. And I'm just gonna start us off by saying that some of the tools that you might be using today already do this really well in an automated fashion. And I'm just going to say MailChimp as a first example, where it's a fantastic platform for your email marketing. And they've also layered in some great tools to help you automatically segment your donors based on some of the characteristics, and whether it's demographic information like where they live, or it's information that you've pushed over from your CRM so that you can see, past giving history, etc. Platforms like MailChimp are going to help you automatically create these pipelines, these segmented groups that will allow you to better target people. So that's one example to kick us off. Eric, what are some of the other platforms that are out there that our attendees can use to best segment their audiences?
Yeah, I think you touched on some really good ones there. I know ActiveCampaign is one we use often. And there are, I know Virtuous is also, that's more overall marketing automation and can be a little bit more expensive, but is really powerful what they can do there. And then any type of CRM that you're using, some will integrate to do automation and list segmentation. I know HubSpot is a really cool one. I don't know how many of you guys use HubSpot. If you are interested in it, definitely reach out and we can walk through a lot of HubSpot use cases for nonprofits as well. But I would say those are some of the main ones. I think odds are if you're using an email marketing platform currently, whether it's ActiveCampaign or MailChimp, or any other ones, usually those will have at least rough segmentation capabilities, and oftentimes it's just starting. That's the most difficult thing. So we don't need to get into the granularity of sending like specific messages to people depending on like the college they went to. We can just get into let's have different drips for our donors versus first time email list subscribers. I hope that answers your question. Let me know if you have any other ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I'll also recommend to you, Jane, and our other attendees as well, is a good starting place is to consider what questions are you wanting to answer about your donors to segment them. So maybe you're thinking in terms of age and you're thinking, okay, we know that we want to target our younger donors differently than some of our older donors. And so the question there is, okay, what are the age groups? Who do we need to appeal to? And with that question in mind, you then know, okay, we want to break it down by some type of age group. And maybe that's data that you already collect today in your donor CRM, and maybe it's not. And in that case, there's an opportunity to start collecting that information, but starting with these questions about what you want to accomplish within your fundraising strategy will often lead to discovering whether your platform can handle that automated segmentation for you, or whether you might want to start looking for something that can. And Eric and the Community Boost team are fantastic at helping shepherd you through that and make sure that you're getting the data you want so that your fundraising strategy is going to be lean and mean. There's another question that came in here earlier in the presentation from Brian, and it's about recurring donor numbers. And he's saying, we found that with our recurring giving campaigns, they're generating gifts, but the majority are still one-time gifts. We're getting recurring, but they're usually not in the majority. And so the question here is, what have we seen, Eric, with the clients that Community Boost has and with Fundraise Up customers? What do we really see in terms of balance between these one-time gifts versus recurring, and the type of performance that maybe Community Boost clients are seeing from their recurring programs?
Yeah, I know we shared numbers earlier with Step Up, where we had, I think it was around 86% retention rate. So again, utilizing the best practices that we covered in this presentation, I think numbers like that are definitely possible, and we see numbers like that across our base of clients. I'm not sure if Nick, you have other thoughts there, but it's really about, after we get them to sign up for the recurring giving program, we can't forget about them after they've signed up. It still takes work to steward them and to turn them into lifetime donors and supporters. So whether that is direct outreach, making sure our emails are really effective, and even using paid ads to thank them and show gratitude. I think it's really important to not forget about them and to continue marketing them and keeping them in our community, because they're not our donors forever. After they donate once, we have to continue marketing for their attention.
Absolutely. And what I'll add in here as well, Brian, is that, and this is what we'll oftentimes see across the board with Fundraise Up customers, maybe the metric that you don't look at is, what is the ratio of recurring donors to our one-time donors? But really to look at what type of donation revenue are we seeing generated from this audience. And that's really the powerful component here to a good recurring donation program. Not only is it going to help those retention numbers, because once these donors have a recurring plan on file with you, it's not all that likely that they're going to cancel it, year after year. So you have these donors locked in, they give continuously, which is fantastic. Again, great for driving retention and dropping down attrition. But again, really looking at the type of revenue that these recurring donors are generating. We actually just completed a analysis of some of the data that's coming through for our enterprise level customers. They had questions very similar, Brian, to the performance of their recurring plans. And what we really see here is that we're able to take the value of those one-time gifts. So let's say, and I'm rounding down these numbers a little bit, but let's say that the one-time value of all of your recurring donors' gifts would have been 100K. And then after they are converted into monthly support after 12 months, that value might be more like 800K. So instead of getting 100K in one-time donation value, you're getting $800,000 every year, year after year with these recurring donors. So again, instead of looking at how many recurring donors do we have versus those one-time donors, what's the value that our number of recurring donors are providing? Because chances are they're powering a pretty significant level of recurring donation value there. And Brian, I do hope that answers your question. If you have follow-up questions about this question specifically, you can of course connect with me and Eric at Community Boost as well. Eric, the next question that I want to touch on here while we still have a bit of time left with our audience is coming back to Google Ads. And so there's a lot of feedback that we received during today's presentation about Google the Google Ad Grant specifically. And so we have some attendees who are saying, again, that it seems kind of difficult to apply for. And of course, one of our responses there is that, it can be a little tricky, but if you have help, AKA Community Boost, it's a great way to access a lot of ad dollars for free. But on that same note, we have some attendees who are saying, we utilize an agency right now to help us shepherd through Google Ad Grant, but that in itself is an out-of-pocket cost for us. And we don't necessarily always see that we're getting value from our Google Ad Grants. We're given 10K a month, but maybe we're only seeing utilization in the 6K range. And so, Eric, I'm hoping that we can take this moment to kind of touch on what it is that Community Boost can provide to our attendees in terms of taking what sounds like might be kind of confusing, kind of frustrating for some people, and turning it into a strategy that they can really leverage in their nonprofit.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Again, I don't think we have to say more than that. It's $120,000 of free advertising spend a year to re-emphasize the fact that it's a powerful fundraising tool. We have plenty of case studies on our website as well of clients that are utilizing the ad grant, spending the full $10,000 a month and generating a lot of donations from the channel. But it is definitely a process to apply for. But again, I don't want to be selling Community Boost too much. And I want to make sure that we're on the same page of just making sure that everyone here is utilizing the channel as effectively as possible. So I would just challenge ourselves to think about, where else can we get $120,000 to use as advertising spend? And is that more of a marketing priority than something else we're spending advertising dollars on or spending time on, whether that's like an organic social post? At Communities, we do offer free audits of anyone's Google Ad Grant account. So if you do have a partner agency and you're struggling to spend a certain amount on your own or with an agency, we're happy to jump in and audit the account. We're Google certified professional partners. We've been doing this for 8 years with some of the biggest nonprofits in the world. And so we'd love to just make sure that you're utilizing best practices and getting the most out of the grant. And then we also offer a lot of resources to do personal learning. So we have a Google Ad Grant Academy, which is a course that we've created, which basically all the things we learned from being Google certified professional partners and from 8 years and millions and millions of dollars of ad grants managed. We basically boiled all that down into a academy course so nonprofit marketers can learn how to make the most of the grant on their own without having to pay Communities agency fees. So if any of you guys are interested in the academy, I'm happy to give you a discount as well, just because we want to make sure, again, I just hate to see that people aren't utilizing the grant when it's such a powerful opportunity. So if money is the reason for that, or resources, I can give you a pretty hefty discount on the academy just to make sure we're getting off our feet there. But I know that was a long-winded, rambling answer, but I hope that helps with some of that. If you're interested in the academy, you can just shoot me an email at eric@communityboost.org, ERIC, and I'll get you set up there.
Fantastic. And I see some other questions coming in here about recurring giving. We are about 3 minutes away from 2 p.m. So let me see if I can answer a couple more of these. But one thing I did want to make sure that I could also provide to all of you today is a case study that we recently did with one of our customers. And I know Community Boost has worked with them as well. This is the International Community Foundation. It's a really great organization that serves as, in many ways, a fiscal sponsor for nonprofits in other parts of the world that can't necessarily accept donations in those regions. And so Community Boost is able to support them by acting as a fiscal sponsor. But we did a really fantastic case study with them on recurring giving. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop a link to this case study here into the chat. I'll also send it in our email follow-up as well, so you have that handy. But I also want you to have the link to it here in the chat if you want to take a look at this today. And you'll be able to see, based on the numbers, what type of growth you can see from a recurring program that's built using Fundraise up. In the case of Community Boost, they saw themselves go from single-digit recurring plans to it's well over 200 today at this point, which is fantastic. There was a question here that I did want to address real quick about getting those one-time gifts to convert over to monthly. And something that's really special about our platform is that there is a automatic AI-driven feature that will do its best to convert a one-time donor into a monthly supporter. And the performance that we see out of that is actually really great. It's 40%. So we'll see about 40% of your one-time donors, when prompted by our system, convert over to monthly support. And of course, we've already chatted a bit about what some of the benefits are there. If that number sounds intriguing to you and you'd like to learn more, please do reach out to me. Again, it's Nick, N-I-C, at fundraiseup.com. You can also reply to the email that we'll be sending out. And of course, you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. That is it for today, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of Learning Lab with our friends over at Community Boost. Again, we've learned so much today. Eric, thank you for sharing your expertise with us. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how we can help these nonprofits out there make their fundraising strategies that much more, that much better using what we've learned today. So thanks again, Eric, for your time. And I wish everyone a fantastic rest of your Wednesday. And we'll see you next time here on Fundraise Up Learning Lab.
Yeah, thank you all so much and have a great day.
All right, take care.